welcome to episode 44 of White Heat Part A, presented by Godzilla Media, sponsored by our good friends at Mohawk Honda in Scotia Glenville, Johnstone Supply in Troy. Oh, if you only knew the circus that was involved to try and get this to start recording and all that jazz. JJ Alexander's just laughing because he knows what I mean. He can hear it in my voice.
We've been working on this for an hour.
Oh man, there's days where I love technology and days where I want to punch whoever invented this stuff right in the face. But anyways, okay. So let me preface the start of this episode by explaining what's going on. So what we're doing is like we mentioned last week, we're splitting episode 44 to two parts. And the way we ultimately concluded on doing this is that we are spending the entirety of part A covering the week that was for WWE WrestleMania. We're going to be, not that there was much to really cover, but we'll go through the go home TVs. And then obviously we'll go through Stand Deliver, WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2. And then what we're going to do for part B, because we're recording this right now on Monday afternoon, April 4th, is we're going to let it breathe. And we're going to devote part B, which we're recording the next day, Tuesday, April 5th. We're going to devote that to whatever bullshit we feel like touching on from AEW, Ring of Honor, Super Card of Honor, eye roll emoji. The Raw After Mania, Raw After Mania tends to be a big animal to tackle.
Yeah.
So we just kind of felt like we'll just let things breathe. It'll also allow us to maybe look back at WrestleMania a little bit differently when we approach part B of this episode. So that all being said, JJ, if you're ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Oh, I'm ready.
All right.
I took all my Sudafed and all that shit. I'm good to go.
Oh yeah, you and your wonderful like head cold you have going
Sinus
on.
headaches. It goes from here to here to here to here to here.
That's lovely. That's freaking lovely.
When it hits here and it goes all through your teeth. Oh, it's the worst.
You get the most random shit.
Yep.
As far as the effects of what it does to you. Any hooser. All right, so to be quite blunt, the go home edition of Raw, I'm just going to say it, was a whole lot of nothing in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was very blasé. It was very, I felt like it was a little more promo heavy than they usually are for go home episodes into a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And the matches didn't really stand out at all. The ones they did have on the show.
Yeah.
Like to me, the only real entertaining part at all, but it was ruined because I saw the leaked footage of it earlier in the day on Twitter, was the whole Seth Rollins Vince McMahon thing. And that was all of 6-7 minutes long of a 3-hour show. But again, because that was leaked prior to the show on Twitter in that afternoon, if you saw that on Twitter, you pretty much didn't need to watch Raw that night.
Yeah.
This is what it breaks down to.
Like the only thing that was anything new going into Mania was them setting up freaking Omos and Trashley.
Right. Exactly. That's really the only thing that added any substance of any sort to what was going to happen later in the weekend. And I kind of felt the same way about NXT TV.
NXT was
that's a good answer.
Like all they did was they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna find a way to shoehorn in a women's tag title match we don't have anything else, so we're just gonna put Raquel and Dakota back together.
Right. So here's what we had from, I'll just run through it real quick just to set up how everything went. So we had, they opened with a 6-man tag with Imperium being LA Knight and MSK. Then we had promo, backstage seg, two backstage things really, because they had Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai, then they had Dakota Kai looking for Wendy Chu apparently, and then we had Tatum Paxley trying to help clean up the gym that was defaced for Diamond Mine. Then Ivy Nile beats Tiffany Stratton because Saray distracts Tiffany. Who cares?
Yeah, it was heel versus heel for no reason.
Right. Then you had two back-to-back video packages for about Dolph and Cora Jade. Briggs and Jensen beat Legado del Fantasma. Then you had Purge and Indy arguing who was the hotter couple, and setting up whatever the fuck they did. What was it like a?
It was just a promo package of them like shopping in Texas that they played twice during Takeover, and there was a Twitter poll.
I saw the Twitter poll. What was it? 89%?
Yeah.
Shit. Then Toxic Attraction came to the ring, cut a promo, which led to basically Gigi and JC saying there's nobody left to face for the tag titles because of the way the Dusty Cup worked out. Which leads to what you were saying. Dakota Kai comes out and goes after Toxic Attraction. Who comes to save her? Raquel Gonzalez.
For reasons.
Yeah, because, they didn't have a knockdown, drag-out feud or anything. We're just going to reunite them and hope people just forgot about that.
Right. Like, they literally been broken up for what? 7 months? If that? Like, didn't they have their blow?
It was
Dakota
pre-War Games.
So it was after Halloween Havoc. I remember that Dakota knocked out Raquel with the shovel during Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, so it was in the midst of...
So then they had their blow off at War Games. So December. So 5 months?
Yeah. Basically. And then they basically had 3 nothing matches in a row before your main event on the NXT. You had Von Wagner beat Bodie Hayward, who really cares. Joe Gacy beat Draco Anthony.
And what's his name? Was it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name was at ringside?
Yeah, looking at Harland kind of funny, which I don't know what they're trying to do there, but okay. And then you had your favorite female on the roster win a squash match. And then they had Lash Legend appear on the Titan not the Titantron, not to call that anymore. The big screen,
the PC-tron,
whatever. Yeah, PC-tron, that works. Because they really want to get a Nikita Lyons Lash Legend match, I guess, which is like watching paint dry. So I don't know.
So I'll circle back around to that after we actually start talking about Stand and Deliver. The one little Easter egg from the episode of NXT though was the Creed brothers getting the text on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
781 area code is Eastern Mass. It's where Chaotic runs. And I know that a few Chaotic guys were down at the PC this past week. Not only Chaotic, but just like Eastern Mass people. Like Johnny Vegas was down there and he brought down a couple of kids. So we might be seeing someone new.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's really the only thing that has any kind of mystery behind it at this point is who's behind the stuff going on with the gym,
right?
For Diamond Mine.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is it me or do I keep hearing? I don't know if it's Barrett or if it's Alicia Taylor when she's announcing someone from them. Do I keep hearing people saying Diamond Mine with like a D at the end, almost on accident?
I think people have been slipping up saying it, just because like when you're in the middle of a repetitive, like when you're in the middle of a run on sentence. It just kind of breezes by and like you accidentally do it.
Yeah. Fine. Sure. You say so. And then at the end of the night, we had Cameron Grimes win the last chance triple threat to get into the North American title match at Stand and Deliver. He beat A-Kid and Roddy and Roderick Strong.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that. So yeah. All right. So before we get to Stand and Deliver, I guess we'll go in chronological order actually.
SmackDown.
We'll touch on WrestleMania Smackdown. Obviously, the two notable things that really came out of that, number one, Madcap Moss winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Which
I said it on Twitter.
Let's just be blunt about this. Because they introduced this at 30, correct? In New Orleans?
Yes.
What's the first one?
Okay. Yes.
Let's just be honest about this. The moment they fucked up the fallout from that with Heyman and Cesaro,
mm-hmm.
the whole thing was just fucked from the get-go.
Right. It was the everybody gets a payday battle royal for Mania.
Like not Andre. Big Show winning it once. Okay.
And honestly, Big Show should have won the first one.
Right. But let me just run through the history of this battle royal real quick for you.
There's only one other person besides Madcap Moss that's still employed that's won this.
Okay. So no, you're incorrect. There's two.
Oh.
So Cesaro won the initial one, like we just mentioned. Then Big Show won it the next year at 31. 32 was Baron Corbin.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
When I believe he was still technically NXT talent, by the way. He hadn't been officially called up yet.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we had WrestleMania 33 with Mojo Rawley and the whole Rob Gronkowski thing.
Yep.
WrestleMania 34 was Matt Hardy, which I honestly forgot Matt won that. Was that when he was doing the whole thing with Bray?
That was when him and Bray first got together. Was during that.
Right. Okay. Braun Strowman won 35, which was in New York. Which, if you recall, that was SNL cast member Colin Jost being the last guy out.
Yeah, Jost and Shea were part of that. Yeah.
Then they skipped it. They skipped it for COVID Mania.
That's right.
And then they brought it back last year, which was Jey Uso.
Yep.
That's the other one that we remember. He eliminated Shinsuke last. And then, obviously, Madcap eliminating Finn Balor last to win the one this year on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Pop quiz, by the way. 5. I'm just checking here. Oh, okay. I'm trying to see if I can get you on this. Let's see here. Okay. So only one person. There's one person who's been in the most Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royals, having been in the first 6 of them. He's no longer employed by WWE. Would you like to take a guess on who that was?
I'm guessing it was probably Matt Hardy.
Incorrect. Matt Hardy was in 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
There's a bunch of guys who have been in 5 of them.
Yeah.
But this is the only guy that was in 6 of them. Heath Slater.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the... That's crazy to think. His WrestleMania spot for 6 years in a row was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And then he got canned before the... Yeah. Oh, well. Shit happens. Right. Anywho, the other thing from WrestleMania Smackdown was Ricochet retaining his Intercontinental title in a triple threat against...
Los Lotharios.
Garza and Humberto Carrillo. Los Lotharios, whatever the fuck.
But, he's being buried.
I'm assuming they did the kiss cam, by the way.
I don't know. I didn't catch most of SmackDown on Friday.
Gotcha. So those are the 2 notable things out of SmackDown. Then we get to real quick, Hall of Fame. Anything notable pop out to you at all?
So the Steiner brothers induction seemed more like a vehicle to try to get Braun over, which didn't work. I love how Scott Steiner took up most of their time and Rick freaking called him out for it. It's like they gave us 5 minutes and you took up 4. Thanks.
What do you expect though?
Dana Warrior is a twat. Completely disregarded JTG being there. He wasn't introduced, like even when it came out, like Shad's wife had to mention that he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me a fucking break. And the thing was, like, JT and like I also felt like it was a little snub that Jay didn't actually get to say anything.
Yeah, that was a little odd. I felt like he comes out with the family. He even does the
he does the little like
the thing
entrance thing with Shad's son. Yeah.
I don't know that the whole thing felt kind of odd when you put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, it was a nice heartfelt speech afterwards, but I mean, yeah, it just like it felt like he got snubbed. And then getting TED Talk Taker. Which the moment he started coming out and you saw the side mic, I'm like, they're gonna let him go for as long as he wants.
Oh please, that wasn't TED Talk Taker. That was Preacher Taker. It was like he was giving a Sunday sermon of some sort.
But I mean, that was a hell of a speech. I think that's the longest Hall of Fame speech in history. I mean, probably. Rightly so. I mean, he went an hour. So
yeah.
But I mean, rightly so, and it was well done. A lot of shit hit home. Some people were mad that he like mentioned a whole bunch of people, but didn't mention some people, and it's like, dude, like he went through a lot of stuff. He mentioned a lot of people, and you could tell he was winging it the whole time. Like he didn't have it prepared because like people were like, oh, he didn't mention Mick Foley. Like it's not like he's got heat with Mick.
Right. Yeah. Oh man.
But and it was a nice touch at the end when he put on the jacket and the hat. And then of course he had to do the never say never.
Which I don't know. I hope that doesn't mean what it would usually mean. I don't know.
I think they could bring him back like at like Mania 40 as like a special enforcer or like in a cinematic match or something like that. Like something easy.
Yeah. Let's hope it doesn't mean what it could mean. Let's just say that much. All right. Then we get to NXT Stand and Deliver, which was WrestleMania Saturday afternoon. Yeah, I got that.
They drew a nice house.
Yeah, they were in what arena was it?
American Airlines, was it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, that would sound
It's where they held SmackDown in the Hall of Fame and it's where they're holding Raw.
Yeah, so that would basically the arena that the NBA's Dallas Mavericks play in.
Yes.
That's what it is. All right. So pre-show they had Mackenzie Mitchell and Sam Roberts as per usual. But then they also had Beth Phoenix on board.
Yep.
Which is a nice touch.
Yeah.
Did the usual stuff. And then they had they had Kayla Braxton chime in at certain points, Peter Rosenberg, Akbar Pasha Biamilla from American Ninja Warrior. Sorry, Casey Catanzaro couldn't be on the card for you to break down, but okay, whatever. What else? Oh, and we had the
women's tag title match.
No, before that, did you see the little skit with Inoue tricking Blade to go into the locker room thinking it was going to be Toxic Attraction's locker room and it was Imperium's locker room?
No, I missed that.
So Blade had like a whole like gift basket prepped because there's been this whole thing with him and
they got the crush on him.
Yeah. So Inoue let him to a locker room that had a Toxic Attraction sign, and he convinces Blade to go in. And after he goes in, you hear some rumbling and tussling around, and Inoue removes the sign to reveal it's actually Imperium's locker room. So it was a good little bit of humor. All right, so during the kickoff show, we also had the women's tag title match, which completely ruins our hot list from last week.
Yeah.
So Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai are now your new women's tag champs with help from interference by Wendy Chu. Sure, I guess. Whatever. Cool.
I mean, they had to do something with, the tag team was not getting over. Like, I mean, honestly, I don't think Toxic Attraction as a whole is getting over, but the tag team more so than Mandy, so they had to take those straps off them.
Just almost makes me wonder if Raquel is ever going to get brought up.
She will. Probably. She'll probably be one of the ones that comes up in the draft in the fall.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But then that means you got to find another women's tag team that makes sense, or at least kind of makes sense at some point.
Yeah.
And right now, there's not a whole lot of anything in NXT. Which is not to say they can't find something in like 6 months, but like right now, it's a pretty barren desert in the women's tag division down there.
Yeah.
Then we get the main show. They kick off with the 5-way ladder match for the North American title. And Cameron Grimes finally coming out. Interesting that they only gave Grimes and Mello entrances, by the way, for this match.
So they gave Waller and not Solo. Who else was it?
Santos?
Yes. So during the kickoff, as the kickoff was going off the air, Waller and Santos were coming out. Then they cut to the thing, and then they came back. Sikoa was already in there. Right. And then they introduced Mello. So basically, Solo was like his entrance was happening during the opening crawl.
See, which is weird because like the one guy I've been waiting to see how a live crowd reacts to him coming out
Solo.
Is the one they fucking cut out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So obviously we'll have to wait on that.
Yeah.
That being said, so Grimes ends up winning the match, becoming the new champ.
Grayson Waller broke his arm.
Yeah, I saw him in the sling and didn't exactly know what happened.
It was he did the elbow drop spot off of the ladder on the outside, and he was like, I'm guessing that he was either stupid and called this spot on the fly, or it was about to happen and Cameron was like, wait, I'm not supposed to take this spot, or the spot wasn't approved in general and this kid went into business for himself. And so he did the elbow drop off the ladder, trying to go through Cameron on the ladder. Cameron rolls out of the way, and so he just hits the ladder head on, and he broke his arm. And that's what happens when you keep trying to go viral. And that's what happens when you're green as shit and you keep thinking that I'm just going to do these crazy bumps to get attention.
Allow this to be my weekly moment where I say, brain damage. Fucking Waller. So 2 title matches, 2 new champs, and now we get Tony D going over on Ciampa. Ciampa had come out and
did the Triple H entrance.
And the Shawn Michael flex in the ring before the match started.
Mm-hmm.
So Ciampa, was given his time to get out. Go ahead.
Back it up a second. D'Angelo coming out with AJ Galante. There was just no reason for that. See, I'm from Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So AJ Galante is a guy that used to own this 3rd string minor league hockey team called the Danbury Trashers. They used to play at the Danbury Ice Arena, which is also hosted a plethora of wrestling. Yeah. He he was at the SmackDown taping that I was at back in December, and they were selling like WWE commemorative Trashers t-shirts and stuff. Mm-hmm. Apparently, he worked a deal, and so they're like, "Oh yeah, blah blah." But then they got Wade Barrett on commentary saying like, "Oh, he's like the real life Tony Soprano." I'm like, "No, he's not." And even like I was talking to a buddy of mine who like used to go to Trashers games all the time, and like after the Trashers went under and this dude started getting indicted for shit, like he completely distanced himself from admitting he was the owner of the Trashers for years. I'm talking like 15 years. Until Netflix came along and was like, "We'll give you money."
I mean, isn't that how it always is?
Yeah. But I mean, there was no reason for Galante to be out there. And while I don't agree with Tommaso laying down for the kid, I understand because Tommaso wanted to do the right thing.
Right.
It was just shitty. And that was when, because if you notice, Tommaso's going up the ramp, they cut to a commercial package, and then it cut right out 3 seconds in, and it went back to Tommaso going up the ramp. That was when I knew right then and there, this entire takeover was being produced by Trips. Because
do you think he called it on the fly that he was going to go out there?
I think that he was ready for he had it prepared for it to be a surprise, and maybe not everyone got the memo. But I also like looking at the structure of the way the show opened and the 5-way and all that stuff. I was like, this feels like old NXT. And overall, the whole show pretty much felt like old NXT. So you could tell the Trips was back there in Gorilla, like, this is how it's supposed to be run. Bruce Pritchard, go fuck yourself. This is my show.
And also what's interesting is that sometime the last week or so, apparently, and this is just what I've been reading online. You can take it or leave it, but NXT talent had been encouraged in the last week or so to, how should I put it? Lay it in there, I guess would be one way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this is... Because let's just call a spade here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the newer talent that's been introduced since the turn into NXT 2.0,
mm-hmm.
A lot of their shit looked weak. Let's just be blunt, honestly. So the fact that something like that had to be said tells you something.
Yep.
So maybe this was kind of everyone's audition to show that they can lay it in. That's why it came off that way. Obviously, we'll see with NXT TV that comes up in the next number of weeks to see how that works out. But yeah, I would agree. Then we had the excuse me. There we go. Stupid me. There we go. I kept clicking on that ad. Sorry. Then we got a triple threat match for the tag titles, in which MSK gets the victory, recapturing the tag titles, their second time with the gold, beating the Creed brothers and the champions Imperium.
And that match was the tail of the tape as far as 2.0 goes, because I like Imperium. I think they're solid hands, but like the thing was, they were kind of forgotten in this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Like they were just kind of there and they were the champions. There was too much focus put on the fucking Green brothers. And sure enough, when they came out, there was no crowd reaction. And MSK came out and there was not a lot more crowd reaction, but the crowd warmed up to them in the match. And the thing is, it's because this is really MSK's first match since being in NXT in front of a large audience that wasn't just at the PC. And it helped them. Because they obviously they worked for Impact. They know how to work a crowd. But it proved that they put way too much stock in the Creeds over the past 6 months. And this was Tripp saying, "See, I told you." Because when you're not in front of the friends and family crowd, nobody cares about these guys.
Right. Then we go into the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Women's title match, in which there's a new title belt.
Yeah.
Looks all right.
Yeah,
I ain't mad at
it wasn't much of a change from the old one.
Right. This is a match where
they literally added Io and Kaylee to make the match serviceable, so the crowd didn't throw garbage in the ring.
That perfectly sums up what I was thinking. They were basically there as filler, as if to guide Cora and Mandy through it. In the end, Mandy retains after Io hit a moonsault, and she tosses out Io to get the pin.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first champion to successfully defend their title that night.
Yeah. Cora Jade, and again, no crowd reaction. And they've sent her out with
a bunch of skateboarders.
Yeah, you can't send a professional skateboard trick company out there to swirl around this girl who doesn't know how to ride a skateboard, who just walks out with it holding it. Like, you just expose the fact that her gimmick is bullshit.
Right. Then we had LA Knight versus Gunta.
They fucking neutered all of Imperium. They changed their music.
Yeah, which is weird because there's no royalty fees involved for the music they had for them.
Yeah, the Bell of I always forget the name of it. It's like the Bell of the Valkyrie, something like it. But that it's public domain music. Like,
right?
Why change it?
I don't fucking know. At least Gunta wins.
Yeah.
Which. So basically, here comes the question: are we still going to shuffle around LA Knight to just do these random rivalries, or is this probably it? Like, is he possibly moving up?
He's probably moving up.
I would tend to agree. Yeah. Then we get the main event for the NXT Championship, and I know why you're smiling and happy. Dolph Ziggler retains the title over Braun Breaker.
Dude, that match was beautiful. It was like a minute in, Dolph went for that second turnbuckle on the side, and they didn't mention it on commentary. And so then they didn't even go back to it for 20 minutes. And the entire time, like, I was on the edge of my seat watching that match because I was like, no, do not put this kid over. No. And every time some heel shit came out, I'm like, yes, heel shit, keep that fucking kid down. And then sure enough, I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's the turnbuckle. Boom. Thank you. That was pure old school. That was Tripp's agent, was the agent for that match. You can tell.
So obviously things ended on a happy note for you.
I even said right afterwards, I was like, nothing can get me down the rest of this weekend. I was just like, anything that happens in Mania, I don't care. They did the right thing here, and I'll be happy for the rest of my weekend. And the wife said, I'm going to hold you to that.
We'll circle back to that thought.
Yeah.
Because I think you're wrong at one point, but we'll get back. We'll get to that in a few minutes. That being said, we now go to later that day into the evening, Wrestlemania Saturday, which opened with the SmackDown Tag Team titles and the Usos successfully defending them against Shin and Rick Boogs.
Poor Rick.
Yeah, obviously you could tell the knee buckle something was wrong. Just obviously didn't know the extent of the injury.
Yeah.
They eventually they didn't really get a true update throughout the rest of the night, but they did announce the next day. Mm-hmm. He suffered a quadricep patella injury that requires surgery.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure about the timetable. My assumption, I'm gonna look it up real quick. Quadricep patella. Let's see here.
I mean, it wasn't a good sign to start off Mania. Wasn't a good omen.
Quad patella tendon repair. Let's see what we got here. Of course, I had to click on. Okay, recovery, time off of work. Usually estimated to take at least 6 months for the patient to feel as though he or she has completely returned to a pre-injury level of activity.
Jesus. So Boogs is going to be out until Survivor Series.
roughly. Although, I mean, well, here's the thing. You also have to factor in Boogs he's a gym rat. He's a gym freak, really. I mean, you just see the way the guy lifts weights and stuff. So maybe SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I'd say that's the early end of the timetable. I'd say SummerSlam, depending if there's any delays or setbacks, then yeah, Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Because Survivor Series would put him at, let's see, November. So the back end of 7 months, maybe a little more than that. Yeah. SummerSlam would put him at the SummerSlam, also remember, it's the end of July. It's not in August this year.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the short end of 4 months there. Because they're doing it outside in Nashville with Money in the Bank at the beginning of July in Vegas. So, obviously it's a wait and see thing. You feel bad for him, obviously, because it is his first Mania after all. But it seemed like, see, and this is how you know you got true veterans in the ring, because despite the fact of that happening, everything from that point forward almost felt pretty damn natural to the flow of the match.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing about it really felt off kilter.
Mm-hmm.
And aside from when they mentioned Boogs not being on the apron to try and help Shin,
mm-hmm.
nothing felt out of place or looked weird. So
yeah, they knew how to call the different finish on the fly.
Yeah, so good on Jimmy and Jay and Shin and getting that done. So that was a real good job of them covering up that issue. Next we had Drew defeating Happy Corbin. Have you seen the still photo from after the match?
No.
So after the match, obviously, Madcap Moss is talking shit to Drew because he's Madcap Moss, and then Drew takes this sword or Angela breaks the ropes.
Yeah.
Let's just say that Angela isn't exactly the most well architected sword in the world. So there is a still photo of when he's going through and breaking the ropes as he's breaking through the second rope.
Mm-hmm. So
a sword should be, straight. This thing, let's just pretend that this blue cap on the Sharpie is the handle. This is the sword. Let's just say, now pretend it's bending, not just a straight line when I pull this off. The sword was basically like that going So that was funny to see a still photo of. Not sure it was really necessary to do that spot, but sure, fuck it, why not?
It was just to put an exclamation point on the entire feud, really.
Yeah, I suppose.
And I mean, they I understood when Drew first started coming out with the sword, as part of the Scottish Warrior thing, but it's played out now. There's no need for it.
Exactly.
It's something like, okay, you used it, and now you've had 3 different people steal it from him at one point. Now it's time for it to go away.
Right. First time was cute. It was like, oh, they're doing the Bret Hart jacket gimmick, except the sword. I get it. Yeah. So then we get the first celebrity match of the weekend, as The Miz and Logan Paul went out and defeated the Mysterios, which I'm sure brought a big smile across your face.
Fuck the Mysterios. Art Barr is spinning in his grave.
Yeah, so obviously you're referring to the gear that Ray and Dominic had. If I remember correctly, who was in the Eddie old school US? Was that Dom? I think it was Dom in the US, which was Eddie Guerrero tribute. And then you mentioned the Mexico gear layout that Ray had on. It was interesting to see Logan Paul do a bunch of Eddie shit, the Frog Splash, the Three Amigos.
Dude, Logan Paul impressed the fuck out of me.
And I remember I think I brought this up either last episode or the one before when we were breaking this down. Logan Paul had been putting in time with The Miz, and I think he was training with Ziggler as well. I believe TJ Wilson was also helping out. They weren't Logan Paul wasn't going to just show up and fuck around and go home. Like this wasn't a Snooki situation. He was going to, come in and actually do work, and good on him.
And the whole thing, like, he looked like he belonged when he was in there.
Yeah, he didn't look like shit. He was in shape. And here's the thing I appreciate the most, actually. The touch of having matching gear with Miz. Like, he didn't look out of place.
And Makazi designed both their gear. He did a great fucking job on that shit.
He did do a great job.
Especially because Makazi purposely did it to match the 6-figure Pokemon card and the lanyard.
Yeah, like, I don't get why he would wear a multi-million-dollar Pokemon card in the ring, but that's
because he can.
Yeah, it's Logan
because it's a douchebag move.
Well, yeah, I mean that's Logan and Jake Paul for you. Which, by the way, Jake Paul was on the pre-show that night.
Yep.
And why do I feel we're gonna get like Logan and Jake Paul teaming together at another Mania down the road?
That's a good possibility.
I don't know against who, but I could see Jake taking a break from the boxing and coming in for a Mania potentially with his brother.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Especially next year with it being in Hollywood.
Right. And I'll tell you right now, Logan, if they better say doors open anytime for him, because I
think we're gonna see another match. We're going to see Logan and Miz. I don't know about Backlash, but maybe at SummerSlam.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah, especially because he's doing a big outdoor. They're doing a big stadium again for that.
Right.
Because they're going to be in Nashville. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Absolutely. Or even, I don't think they'd put it on a secondary pay-per-view like this, but they could even do Money in the Bank just because it's Vegas and it's a big stadium as well.
Right.
They could do really either one, I feel like. And then after the match, to feed into what you were just saying about Miz and Logan Paul, Miz ends up giving a skull-crushing finale to Logan Paul after the match and walking out on him. Then we had a quick seg where Stephanie came out to the top of the ramp and introduced Gable Steveson to the crowd. He came out, he did the Tom Hanks League of Their Own. Go out, smile, wave my little ball cap, but I did that. So where do I get paid? That's basically what that was, and whatever. It was what it was.
Yeah.
Which again, you didn't have to do it. Now, obviously, we got more out of him night 2. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to do anything more than that. That was perfectly fine.
Right.
Then we lead into the Raw Women's title match, the first women's title match of the night. And Bianca gets over, beats Becky clean, 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring.
Minnie Mouse versus Priz
becomes the new Raw Women's Champion. We had Becky with the what was her? Oh, she came out in the big SUV, right?
Becky? No, Becky came out. Oh yeah, Becky. Yes, Becky did.
Yeah, Becky came out in the big SUV, and then Bianca had the Texas Southern University marching band.
I was surprised because usually if you get the marching band / chorus treatment at Mania, that means you're not going over.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Bianca turns the manhandle slam into a KOD, and that's your winner. That's your.
I mean, now they obviously have a lot of stock in Bianca. If they were willing to, for how long Becky has been on top. They really must have a lot of faith in Bianca. And I'm not saying anything against Bianca. I think she's a hell of a talent. But now she's really, really, really going to have to step shit up. Because she's got really big shoes to fill.
Well, here's the thing. I don't see Becky going away right away. So you can at least carry that on.
Yeah.
At least in the Backlash next month. Maybe more. There's... and I feel like there's talent on Raw that can, that can keep the momentum up. Like Rhea Ripley, for example. Like you could do a program with her, and it could go a couple months if you want. there's talent there. Plus, you never know when Bayley's going to return because everybody's been expecting Bayley for 3 months, it seems like, which
apparently her and Asuka were backstage at Mania and are ready to go for this week's TV.
Right, and we don't know where Asuka is because I'm trying to remember. I don't think either one of them got drafted, right? Back in the fall,
they left them both off because of the injuries.
Yeah, so one might debut tonight, or not debut, return tonight on the Raw after Mania. One, maybe both. Who knows? But
right.
So then we get to where I think you were lying, sir. We get to where I think you were lying. Because you just said a few minutes ago that after the Breaker loss, nothing could stop you from being happy.
But what I meant is overall Mania. I didn't mean like single moments. Because, yeah, I did say fuck this game. Adrenaline in my soul. We never wanted Cody Rhodes.
In my soul.
We never wanted Cody Rhodes.
Oh, man. So Seth comes out.
Seth skinned a Cookie Monster.
I was going to say that, or he raided Ric Flair's closet and totally redesigned one of his robes. Because it looked very Ric Flair-esque, I felt like.
Yeah.
So he comes out with his whole shtick, and then obviously the dramatic wait. And then the unveil that's Cody, and he comes out and defeats Seth Rollins. And it was no squash. It was
a serviceable match.
It was a serviceable match of both of length and of quality. Eventually with Cody, how should I put this? So we saw this at the end of his AEW run, where it's almost like a switch would go off on him at the end of his matches, and he would be more aggressive and relentless towards the end, like the multiple crossroads or doing doing crossroads off the top or something like that. Mm-hmm. So he ended up doing overall in the match 4 crossroads to get the win. He did 1 a few minutes before the finish, and then he did 3 in a row to get the win in the end. So I'm interested to see if that carries over into him maybe working as a heel, and obviously just obviously he gets the pop when he comes back that day,
right?
At Mania. But now the question becomes two-part. A, which network wins the, not there's actual money being thrown, but the quote-unquote bidding war for the services of Cody on their show? Do you put him on USA? Do you put him on Fox? And then part B of that, do you carry over the good feeling of him being back and have him as face to start off? Or do you kind of take the carryover of the anger that kind of built for him in the end of that match and use that towards being a heel character instead?
Right.
Obviously, time will tell.
Yeah. I mean,
we'll find out real quick where he's going to be as far as Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors involved in that. I mean, and it was released like one of the big things in bringing him back was because they're doing an A&E biography on Dusty, so they needed him for that. But I still stick by what I said last week, where he's back, he's gonna eat shit for a while. There's already conflicting claims as to it's a 1-year deal, it's a multi-year deal, yada yada. The fact that Cody told Variety, like, me leaving AEW had nothing to do with money or creative differences, but it's personal and I'm not going to talk about it. Like, yeah, we fucking get it. Like, and I don't know if I went into this ever on here before, but I've had a good opinion of thinking Cody is trash for years. And it goes back to a podcast interview he did maybe about 4 years ago. Now, mind you, he was on this podcast and he decided just for the fuck of it, to talk shit about an indie that booked him for a match. And mind you, this was an indie that I do not get along with the owner, or at least I didn't at the time. I've been professional and civil since. There's, if there's bad blood there or whatever, it is what it is. But we both maintain being adults. But Cody had to go on and talk shit about this little indie in Connecticut that booked him. He's like, oh, I won't say the name, but I'll just mention that it was in Enfield, Connecticut on this date, and I worked Donovan Dijak. Like, oh, gee, like the internet can't figure out. Mm-hmm. And was just a complete dick about it and like completely buried this, this little company who like literally brought him in to try and draw a crowd. And then like I go and find out afterwards because I talked to my ring announcer, Matthew James, who was also ring announcing for that company. And he flat out tells me, he's like, dude, Cody was a complete douche to everyone that night. Like just big leagued everyone, threw a fucking fit. And the whole thing was after the show, this company was doing this meet and greet. It was like a not a meet and greet, like an after party at this local bar that helped sponsor the event. And so what happens is the local talents would be there, and usually the names that were on there would go down as well. I remember going to one of the shows, one of the after party shows once, like Hornswoggle was there and hanging out with everyone and stuff. It's just something they did. And apparently Cody had agreed to go do this. And then that night had an attitude about it and was like, oh, I'm not going to go. And then someone mentioned like, well, you agreed to it. And so Cody shows up at 10:30 at night with sunglasses on, with his hood up, and then just goes and sits in a corner and freaking broods. Like, dude, really? You're going to be that much of a fucking asshole about this? Like, and like I said, this is someone that I had no love for at the time, but he's just trying to make a fucking living. And you've got to be that much of an asshole to him? Like, no, fuck Cody.
By the way, I just found the Reddit about that specific. The whole. It was by the way, it was the Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast.
Oh, so it wasn't even. I didn't even know whose podcast it was. I just knew it was a podcast. So it was one of the bigger ones.
He was a guest on that podcast. This was, I think I saw the date was March of 2017. I believe it was.
Yeah, so 5 years ago.
And I saw the promotion that you're not naming, and yeah, okay.
Because they're still we've maintained,
they're still working.
They're still working. We've maintained like the state's big enough for both of us. We don't need to fight.
Right. Yeah. And plus you both share a common person that,
a couple of common people. But yeah.
Well, one in particular I'm thinking of that I think he does the same thing for them as he does for us, doesn't he?
What, Matt James?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I figured. All right.
But yeah, Matt James works for them, works for us. Joanna Robinson works for them, works for us. Like, whatever.
Yeah, Joanna's okay, I guess. I'm kidding. Joanna, if you're watching or listening, I'm kidding. I love you. So yeah, I found I'll have to read this when we get done because I remember I remember you telling the story before. I just I don't think you ever mentioned that it was part of like an interview, but I do remember you. I remember you sharing the experience before, but I think you were just sharing it from the perspective of. I think we just happened to be talking about Cody at some point. You mentioned that story.
Yeah.
Anywhooser. So then we get to the other women's title match of that night. It's for the SmackDown Women's title, Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. I have no problem with Charlotte retaining. I wanted Charlotte to retain. I felt like there was no need to placate to Ronda in that way with this match. Yeah. Do I think Charlotte Ronda goes on?
Probably.
Oh no.
Now that Becky hasn't retained, like obviously, because I honestly thought that was the route they were going to go. Is if Ronda didn't go over, she would end up going after Becky afterwards. But
yeah,
here is my only issue, and I thought
what else has to be served at this point.
Yeah, I thought it was a serviceable match. I just think because like at that point in the night, like it was starting to drag, like it was getting later. However, I think that if they had switched the women's title matches as in match order, and they had put Charlotte and Ronda on earlier,
it would have gotten over better.
It would have probably gotten over a little better, and it would have brought the crowd way back up for Becky and Bianca because the crowd was insanely hot for that match.
Fucking farm girl bitch. I'm sorry. I don't have much love for Ronda, honestly. Like it's weird because I was one of the, how should I put this? So back when I was still doing sports talk radio 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was. It was back when New York State was still stifling on allowing professional mixed martial arts. And I was, let's just say I was in the great minority in being a proponent within the sports talk radio machine around this area. I was one of the few proponents of having it legalized. To the point where I had like national writers on. I had state assemblymen come on my show to discuss it, owners of local MMA gyms. So I was a huge proponent of the sport and for Ronda personally, because I was also around the time when women were finally being given the opportunity to take on a bigger spotlight and be part of the UFC. Because let's be honest, if it's not, UFC is basically the WWE of MMA at this point now. So I was a big proponent for Ronda back then, but in this realm, in this situation, I just, like, even in the triple threat main event they had in New York a few years back, I was like, like, first off, the machine being behind Becky, I mean, it was obvious that she was pretty much going to win that match anyways.
Yeah.
But at the same token, it's like, if it's not Becky, it sure as fuck better not be Ronda, was my thought behind that match. And I felt that way the other night. I was like, they just can't. They can't pull the trigger on Ronda like that quick.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing to think about. If you're going to carry this over, you have like two of the perfect, like, you could hypothetically, if you want, because let's just be real. Charlotte and Ronda have always had an odd physicality with each other that I can't really explain. I don't know if it's the fact that Charlotte hates Ronda that much, or if that's just how Ronda likes to take it. I don't fucking know. But if you want to push the levels of how far these two can go and make this a legit program going beyond, you got Hell in a Cell in 2 months.
Yeah.
And now, like, out of all the programs that were going into Mania and could continue beyond it, aside from Brock Roman, that's the program that makes the most sense for Hell in a Cell right now.
Yeah.
So you could easily, if you want, like, you don't necessarily have to have a match at Backlash, because maybe Ronda wants a couple weeks off or whatever, but maybe you can have Ronda disappear, then show up at Backlash, and then go from there. But yeah, I agree. They booked those two women's title matches ass backwards.
Yeah.
So then we have, let's see here. They end up cutting New Day's match with Sheamus and Ridge until WrestleMania Sunday for time purposes. Because apparently they wanted Steve Austin to come out to the ring in exactly 3 minutes and 16
3 hours and 16 minutes
into the show. If you found that Easter egg on Twitter yesterday, congratulations. So Austin comes out for the KO show. KO says, "Fuck that shit. I want a no holds barred match tonight." And Austin says, "Okay," because that wasn't a dead giveaway when KO came out with wrist tape on and Austin had his knee braces on. That wasn't a dead giveaway at all. But Austin ends up winning the no holds barred match. And I'll say this: obviously, it's a no holds barred match. So there wasn't really any chain wrestling involved per se. But all in all, Steve looked good.
Yes, he did,
and he pulled it off very well.
Yeah.
I was a little scared about him when he did those fucking suplexes on the stage. I'm like, oh God,
Yeah.
You're in your 50s. I don't know if that's good for you. But he was, he was fucking,
yeah.
He carried it.
And it shows how much trust they put in Kevin, which is good.
Almost to a point where you want to see. I'm just curious to see if they take that trust and elevate him with it now.
Yeah.
And I guess, for lack of a better phrase, reward him for it.
Yeah.
Or if they just kind of put him in the background again. I hope not.
I mean, generally, the past few years, Kevin has taken a little bit of time off after Mania.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if that's the route he goes this time again, or if he keeps going.
If he keeps going, at least put him with Finn. Do something with him and Finn. Like, even that will appease me for now.
Right, because they work together well in NXT. So yeah.
And you're not gonna put him together with Roman, like that. That
no,
shippery,
not again.
That shippery sailed a year ago. Yeah.
Right.
Because it was still the Thunderdome, so it was over a year ago when they had their thing on SmackDown.
Yeah, it was Rumble of last year. So yeah.
Right. So that was the wrap on night one. So night one, WrestleMania Saturday. All in all, if you had to go on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you put it?
I think I'd probably give it an 8.5. I think night one was the more, as far as was the match quality heavy night.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think there really was a bad match in the bunch. Like a couple of spots dragged here and there in like Charlotte Ronda and whatever. But overall, like it kept people up. I feel like this is something that may be a thing going forward, considering Mania is going to remain to be 2 nights. It seems like when they put people on the Saturday night portion, they feel like they've got something to prove because they feel like it's the B night. So they go balls to the wall.
Right.
And I think that really helps them.
I agree. I think over time, though, you might see that dissipate, that mindset a little bit.
We'll see.
Especially now that it feels like it's going to be a regular thing, this 2-night thing, which makes sense because let's just break down the economics of it. You can either fill a stadium once, and hypothetically, if they had it set up like they did 6 years prior for WrestleMania 32, you fill it with 100,000 people, and you have all the merch sales and blah, blah, blah. Or you have 2 nights and they had 77,000 plus each. It
was
night.
About 155,000 total for the combined game.
So you're getting 55,000 more people, hypothetically. So you have that much more in your ticket gate percentage, merch sales,
concessions,
so on and so forth. Economically, it makes fucking sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. All right. Then we get to WrestleMania Sunday, night 2. We open with Triple H coming out, which
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Right.
Like it was bad enough, the shit with Tommaso, where I was just like, dude.
Yeah. I mean, the only part that made it a little obvious is the fact that he had his daughters right there at ringside and he hugged them as before he went to the ring. And I was like, oh, God, I know where this is going. But it was nice. It was simple. It was straight. It was to the point. He came out. He did the water thing. He went in the corner. He did his thing. And then he came to the middle. Did a simple intro to WrestleMania. But it was all good because between that and the day before at Stand and Deliver, I feel like it allowed the fans to give him a proper send-off for that part of his career.
Yeah.
Because, again, nobody had seen him, or at least known that he was around since pre-SummerSlam. So, August.
Yeah.
So it had been 8 months since he had really been around doing anything, or even been on television of any sort. So it was a good way to provide closure. Obviously, leaving the boots in the ring when he left the ring was the defining moment of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Yeah, yeah.
And what was it last week? I said like whenever he appears on camera again, he's going to get an insane fucking pop. They were like, yeah, we're not wasting it. We're going to do it.
Yeah. I'm not predicting this, but I think maybe they'll do something on Raw tonight with him.
Possibly.
I'm not saying anything quite like what they had the send off for Taker or Flair per se, but
right.
I have a feeling they'll do something at the end of Raw tonight. But again,
plus, he's yet to solo go into the Hall of Fame, so he's probably going to be next year's headliner now.
I don't know about headliner. There's somebody else that hasn't gone in yet.
Rock. We'll
Especially
see.
If they end up doing what a lot of people want them to do.
If they put him in the main event, they're not going to put him in the Hall of Fame the same year.
Well, we'll wait and see on that. Obviously, they don't start doing Hall of Fame shit till like January, so
it's
not a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
Then we actually get into the action with the triple threat for the Raw Tag Team titles. RK Bro retains.
I was wrong.
Yeah. I think we both had the same feeling that maybe the Profits would get the run. And keep pushing with the heel ways they seem to, and then all of a sudden the heel ways disappeared apparently when fucking post match they're doing the fucking the
toast and Gable comes in, yeah.
Right. And Chad Gable's just being a dick, and then Gable Steveson basically calls out Gable Steveson. Gable's like, "You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this." Sure enough, hop the rail.
It's really sad when Gable Steveson go, look, I can do a belly to overhead belly to belly to someone and not break their fucking neck, and I've never had a match.
Thank you. Yeah. And then Gable enjoyed the water toast outside the ring afterwards. And the reason I know it was water is because it spilled out of Gable Stevenson's beard and it was clearly fucking water. Anywhooser. Then we had the as I ended up having, it was my my toast some bagels and cream cheese for dinner match. Lashley and Omos. I watched the entrances. I watched like the first minute and a half, and as soon as Lashley got thrown to the outside the first time, I'm like, okay, that's my cue. Let's just put it this way. The match was what it was. I couldn't bring myself, and I don't say this very often about WrestleMania matches these days, but I couldn't bring myself to sit there and watch what I already knew was going to happen.
It was not good. Especially it's WrestleMania and Omos is still dressed in like street clothes.
It was like meat on meat.
Dude, like the whole like they're like, oh my god, Lashley speared him in the kidneys. I'm like, no, Omos forgot to turn around. Like,
yeah, somebody else forgot to do that later on too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I think this is the definitive end of the Omos experiment. I think it was Vince going like, oh, well, Strowman's gone. I can fucking make this guy into my next big giant. And it's not working.
Yeah.
Like he's been on the payroll for over 2 years now. Like time to cut him loose.
Yeah, I agree. Then we get to the comedy act of the night as the goddamnedest thing I've ever seen on a WrestleMania occurred. As WrestleMania turned into an episode of Jackass.
I loved that whole fucking match.
And Johnny Knoxville defeats Sami Zayn. All right, so we have, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep in chronological order, but I'm going to try to run through this.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, I believe his name is Party Boy come in.
Yep, Party Boy came in first. Yep, and I even said like at the beginning, I was like, I wonder if Wee Man's hiding under the ring. Sure enough,
he dances around the ring while Knoxville's down, and Sammy's just like, "What the fuck?" And then Party Man rips off his clothes and shakes his Speedo covered ass all over Sammy, and So that was one part. Then
Wee Man.
Sammy pulls Wee Man out from under the ring.
Yeah.
And Wee Man ends up messing Sammy around a little bit inside the ring and even body slamming him. Good post by Sammy.
Yeah.
So it was like, Wee Man's like, yeah, Brock, you want to put me through a table again? And then, what else was there? There was a fucking table covered in mouse traps. We had Mark Henry's son, the Hand, come out for an appearance.
Dude, that's a classic Jackass spot from the movies. And like, I was dying.
I know it's a classic Jackass spot, but I'm like, oh, Mae Young's son came out. Son. Yeah. That's nice. And then they pull out a giant mouse trap, and eventually, after some mechanical failure, a little bit.
You forgot the bowling ball with the balls, and
the
robo dick kick.
Oh yeah. And fucking Knoxville, he fucking laid that bowling ball in there too. I was like, ooh, god damn.
I love Johnny Knoxville's gear was very greatest hero. No, it wasn't Kaufman. That was Greatest American Hero.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh fuck, that was
so much fun.
That was a damn carnival. I'll just put that
was some carny shit, but you know something?
In a good way.
Right. Because they've been doing this program since January, like to have a ridiculousness of this matter as the blow off, especially because it's Johnny Knoxville, you know, you're not going to get some like technical masterpiece. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's going to be a bunch of jackass fuckery because that's what goes along with it. But you know, something, it's entertaining, and they kept the crowd engaged the whole time. This is the staunch the staunch contrast with AEW, who has literally been putting on no DQ matches every other week for the sake of it with no build. This is what happens when you have a no DQ match with a build. People are into it. And you don't have to have people bleed and be set on fire.
Right. No, you're right. I agree. Then we get to the Fatal 4-Way for the women's tag titles, which wasn't a dead giveaway at all. About who was not going to win, because if you listen carefully, about 30 seconds into the match, Corey Graves drops the news. I don't know how much it was really news, but I didn't know it was this close. That him and Carmelo were getting married in 72 hours.
Oh yeah, he'd been saying that on Raw, like they were taking their honeymoon right after Mania.
So it's like, oh gee, I wonder who's not winning this match. And then bitch comes out with a fucking, you made this reference, on a fucking train.
Seriously, like, I can't wait until she catches him cheating on her. I can't wait.
This is one of those it was what it was kind of matches, I felt like.
Yeah.
I mean, a Fatal 4-Way tag match, you know, it's going to be a fucking car crash essentially.
Yeah.
Ends up with Sasha and Naomi going over and become the new women's tag champions.
Yeah.
So congrats to them.
Yeah.
Now we just count down for when Sasha turns on Naomi. I mean, come on, that's how every Sasha tag team ends. Pretty much.
We'll see.
Okay. Then we have Edge and AJ. Now, first off, let's just set the record straight. AJ Styles did not carry Von Erich's face before coming out. Okay. If you don't get the reference, go watch Super Clash 3 with him and Jerry Lawler. You'll understand. Or just fucking watch the what was it? The World Class documentary where they talk about that match?
Yeah.
Go watch that. Either one. It'll explain it. So what happened was, the story is when AJ, like, if you look at the set again, the entranceway, there's like a part of a star that kind of juts out.
Yeah.
Where the wrestlers would come around the corner.
Yeah.
Apparently he misjudged it when he was coming out in the half-ass darkness from the beginning of his entrance song.
Mm-hmm.
and he just kind of scraped his face. That's all it was.
Yeah.
That's all it was, people.
Yeah.
But anyways, and then you have Edge with the Brood meets Game of Thrones entrance kind of sort of thing.
Edge is the newest leader of the House of Black.
Thank you very much.
He's the real king of the Black Throne.
Thank you very much. I was waiting for that. I'm glad that I teed that up nice for you. And I gotta admit, like, I was waiting to see the presentation, because only presentation we had seen of Edge recently was suit and tie or coming up to sneak attack AJ at the end of a match.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what the presentation looked like. Now, obviously, you're not going to have him fucking rise up from a stage every time he wrestles if he's on TV, because there's no fucking stage on TV.
Right.
But I just want to see the general presentation and look of him in this new persona he's carrying.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm a fan. Like,
yeah,
it was, for lack of a better word, and this is not me trying to overdo the flashback feels. It's a very brooding character.
Yeah.
And again, I don't.
A little bit of Ministry of Darkness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Very 99 Undertaker ish.
Yeah.
Just not going all the way to the goth and godlike shit.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of it. Clearly, Jess Carr is like Edge's personal referee at this point that I've been noticing, which good on her. I mean, Jess does a good job. Match ends though with Edge look like he's in trouble and AJ gonna go for the phenomenal forearm. And we get Damian Priest just fucking standing there at ringside, just chilling like a villain, just looking at him. Distracts AJ for a second, then AJ goes for the phenomenal forearm. Edge catches him midair with a spear. 1, 2, 3. After the match, Priest gets in the ring. Shares one with Edge. They both raise their hands above their heads in the ring, and basically initiates what had been a long-standing rumor for the last week or two going into Mania, in that Edge is supposedly going to start a heel stable.
Yeah.
The name of it, no idea. Who's going to be in it? Obviously, Priest, one would assume. After that, no fucking clue.
Right.
There's not even any names that have been rumored to this stable. It's literally like Priest was literally the only person rumored, and he's the first guy to show up. So beyond that, no fucking clue. Yeah. In fact, I'll refresh my feed here. Oh, interesting. Oh God. Oh, please no. All right, I'll come back to that in a second.
I mean, it would be funny if they use this as an opportunity to completely change people's characters to fit this, like kind of like like the Acolytes, how like beforehand they were just, Farouk and fucking Bradshaw, and they like made them fit the Ministry of Darkness. If they took someone like Reggie and just completely changed him.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny though, because Shell goes on Facebook and she like writes something about, oh my God, the new Brood. I'm so here for it. And just to be a dick, I commented with a picture of a can of New Coke. New is not always better.
I need to backtrack for a second here.
Okay.
Now remember, WWE is technically a rated PG product.
Yeah.
Do you know what some idiots out there are rumoring might happen tonight on Raw?
The return of the New Attitude Era.
Wrong.
TVMA.
Well.
Human sacrifice.
Worse than that, unfortunately.
Oh, God.
People are rumoring, because it's been brought up at one point or another by one of the parties involved in this, that there's going to be a live sex celebration tonight with Corey Graves and Carmella.
Oh, Christ. No, it's not going to happen, especially because they lost.
People, it's TV PG. It's not happening. Get over
Right.
yourselves. All right. We're not
Right.
going back to 2005.
Right.
All right. And plus, nobody would be ever interested in that. Like the way people had the hots for Lita in 2005 is
Right.
like here.
Yeah.
Interesting. Carmella's like, and I'm being nice because I'm within the screen here. Just saying. Any Hooser. So then we get to probably. I'm trying to think that I'm pretty sure this was the shortest match of the weekend.
Oh yeah.
Sheamus and Rich Holland against New Day. I love New Day. I do. I understand why they did it, but the singlets just looked really.
They look stupid. Yeah.
They look really like. If they had kept their regular kind of gear and just done the
Biggie jacket,
jacket, that would have worked as far as cosmetically speaking.
Right.
But they just looked really weird in fucking singlets, man.
There's a reason little guys don't wear singlets.
They looked like high school students trying to try out for the wrestling team. It was
exactly
very, very odd.
Right.
I made a note here, and I'm not sure why. Oh, I know what it was. So there was a spot where Kofi, and they cut to a very bad camera angle to show off how fucked up this was. Kofi went to do a springboard dropkick at one point, and Ridge is nowhere to be fucking found for it. Take it. To which I made the note in my phone. Ridge misses more spots than a bad dishwasher.
Yes.
Like, fucking God. Like, can we just put Pete? I'm sorry. Can we put Butch in the fucking ring now? Can we?
I was hoping this was going to be the catalyst for Butch breaking off from them right away. But I mean, it was just the entire story here is to get some fucking redemption for Big E, and no, they still do the fucking job.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, I don't get it.
I don't know what they're doing. I'm hoping this just ends the fucking thing, to be honest. I have no interest in any follow-up in this thing.
Right.
Then we get what I thought was the how should I put this? One of the better star-making performances of the weekend. And I'm talking start to finish. Pat McAfee goes out there.
I was wondering. I was sitting there wondering. I was like, are they going to let him come out to Seven Nation Army? And thank God, Vince was smart.
Did I miss the reference to that?
That's what if you're at a live SmackDown and they introduce the announcers beforehand, he always comes out to Seven Nation Army, and it's not on TV, so Vince doesn't have to pay for the rights.
Right.
But you're there in front of your international audience, which means you have God knows how many soccer fans in that crowd.
Right.
And you want to get McAfee over, you let him keep that music.
Makes sense. So McAfee comes out and beats Theory to the chagrin of Vince McMahon. Patch, I don't know why, but it seems like pretty much anything that dude touches, it just turns into gold, and I can't figure out why.
Yeah.
It's just the charisma. He has a natural charisma about him.
Yes,
That's
he does.
what it comes down to.
Yep.
Whether it's his radio show, whether it's even when he did stand-up comedy for a few shows, that was gold. Commentary is terrific. Him and Cole together is great. And then this, beautiful. Then Pat basically challenges Vince to get in the ring.
Yep.
And we got to see what 76-year-old Vince looks like.
He's still in decent shape.
Pat did what he could to make it look all right. And Vince gets a pinfall after punting a football into the midsection of McAfee. And then Theory goes around like he fucking won the match when it was really Vince or whatever.
Yeah.
Which that'll be interesting to see what happens tonight.
Yeah.
And then as Vince and Theory are celebrating, we hear the glass break. Here comes Austin. He comes down. He stuns Theory. Theory does a sell job Scott Hall would have loved.
Yeah.
And then the moment of the night that made Mick Foley lose his fucking mind out of laughter. If you haven't seen the video, try to go look it up because Mick lost his shit at home watching
still
this.
Can't take a fucking stunner.
Vince gave the sloppiest stunner ever for Steve. First he gets kicked and falls to a knee, then he tries standing up, and he loses his balance, falls back into the ropes, and he comes back, and Steve's like, "Give me your fucking head!" and, the whole thing was a damn mess. Then Pat Mack gets back in the ring, has a beer, gets stunned, and then starts drinking a beer while out on the ground like a dead goldfish.
So great.
It was just the whole thing, start to finish, was very well done.
I feel like that was all planned because I feel like it was for the people that only bought tickets tonight too. Because while the numbers were pretty much even, I guarantee there was a lot of people that said I'm only watching night 2, or there's some people that can only afford one night. Right. And so people who might have bought the Sunday tickets and then they find out Austin's going to be on Saturday would have been like, what the fuck? So Vince purposely had a reason to give them Austin both nights.
It's probably also why they had Taker come out.
Yes, that I was going to say.
And I'll be honest, I feel like, I don't know if, hypothetically, let's say Steve coming out night 2 wasn't in the plans the whole time. I think we can assume what the original plan was if that was changed during the week.
Yeah.
Because let's be real. I know he's done it in the past, but do we really think that Shane was originally just flying in for Hall of Fame and that's it?
I do.
If it really was, that was great on them for making people second guess about whether or not it was really going to be Cody Saturday night.
Yeah.
Because I'll admit, it made me think just a little bit of what the fuck, we're really going back to this well again.
Well, I mean, especially because back when all the fuckery happened in the Rumble, remember there was the rumor that the plan was Seth and Shane at Mania.
Right. Which made me go, really? We're doing this, really? But anyways, so no appearance from Shane. I'm cool with that. Fine by me. I ain't gonna complain. Then we get to the main event of the night. I'll admit, I was kind of shocked with the fact they just did the regular entrance for Roman. I expected a little more pomp and circumstance behind it. Maybe they're saving it for whatever they might have in the plans in the future.
I mean, they did the whole, they made it so that the giant Roman was outside the stadium, and that's how big it was.
Well, yeah. But I mean, as far as inside the stadium, the actual entrance itself, I felt like was going to have a little more pomp and circumstance. Now, again, this might be something they're saving in the can. If they do have plans already set up for next year in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just kind of surprised, especially given how much they were the magnitude of the match as they had built it up.
Right.
Well, they wanted people to forget that there was a title for title match 32 years prior in Toronto, but whatever. We'll just forget that ever happened. But it was just, I don't know, it was just given the.
But that wasn't a title unification because they just had a tourney for the Intercontinental afterwards.
Yes, you're right. I don't know. I just like the way they built up the match. Obviously, Brock doesn't need any fucking dress up. He just wants to go out and beat somebody's ass. But I thought they would have done something with Roman, but I'm not mad at it. It was just something I thought would happen. Mm-hmm. In the end, I want to break down something very specific about the match, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this came early on. Early on in the match, you have Brock with the upper hand. Him and Roman are both outside. Brock is cornering Paul Heyman.
Mm-hmm.
And right in front of the timekeeper's barricade. Timekeeper's area, which basically essentially goaded Brock into taking a spear through the barricade from Roman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you watch carefully, now I don't know what specifically about that spear would have caused this, but if you watch carefully when they go to the picture-in-picture replay, and you keep your eye on the live feed as Roman is crawling out of that area,
Mm-hmm.
he is saying to Paul Heyman, now I don't know if this is a direct quote, but this is pretty much what I was seeing him say. I'm pretty sure he said, "I fucked up my shoulder." He's looking clear as day to Paul. He's saying something about I don't know if he said I fucked up my shoulder, but he's saying something to that effect. Because he was saying something about his shoulder. I could tell that much. So then we get to later in the match. And Brock takes a spear but turns it into a Kimura. You can see after that. And I think this is what you were referencing when we were talking last night. When Roman gets out of that and is eventually upright, you see bruising that would lead from either A, some kind of bicep tricep injury, or B, going back to early in the match, maybe a shoulder injury that was causing issue down the arm with him.
Well, right after that, he was laying there and he was telling Paul, "It's out, it's out, it's out."
Right. Which leads to the end of the night where after Roman pins Brock, if you I don't know if you caught this. So Heyman gets the belts from the ref. Roman grabs the top rope with his left arm, the bad arm, and yanks. Then takes the belts from Heyman. So that leads to what you were saying. So I think Brock's Kimura was the cherry on top to lead to the actual injury, I'm not going to put the whole thing on Brock just because I feel like it was his shoulder, I think, was kind of fucked up to begin with after that spear somehow. But I know you always want to put the whole thing on Brock. You just want to say fuck Brock.
Because Brock has a track record of fucking hurting people and not caring.
Well, we know that. I know. And plus Brock taking the spear and not turning. Although, yeah, I'll just assume Brock forgot to turn around. Because Roman clearly spears Brock, and Brock's like, "Oh fuck!" That was like near the ropes, I think, too, and he just collapsed into the ropes. I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little ox. But anyways, Roman ends up winning, unifies the belts.
They did the smart thing.
No surprises, no nothing. Just Brock sitting there on the mat, disappointed in the loss. Roman's at the ramp with Heyman, raising the belts above his head, and they go off the air with that, basically. So what's intriguing is that there have been reports of Brock having more pay-per-view matches in his contract beyond last night. So now the question becomes, should we just assume we're getting Roman Brock to run it back at Backlash?
No.
Okay. So they don't run it back at Backlash. Do they run it back in a Hell in a Cell match in 2 months?
No.
So the final part of the question is, when do we see Brock get back in a ring for a pay-per-view match? Do we say SummerSlam?
Probably.
Or do they pull the trigger a little early and go Money in the Bank just because it's Vegas?
No.
You think SummerSlam in Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we see Brock at all before July?
Maybe.
Okay. Where do you put Brock? Do you put him, just slide him right back into the Roman picture in July?
It all depends on what they do, because we all know that they have the title unification, but God knows they're probably going to be like, "Oh, we're bringing the big gold belt out of retirement on Raw tonight." Like, like who the fuck knows what's going to happen?
I'm just trying to think right now, because I'm just trying to think of, if not Roman, as of right now, based on the current structure of the rosters, if not Roman, then who? If Brock's not coming back until SummerSlam.
Mm.
And that's a very open-ended question because I wouldn't be able to give you a solid answer right now. I'll tell you who I wouldn't want getting in there with Brock, and it's just for this guy's safety, because I want to see him actually have a prolonged return and actually have good work come out of what he's about to start doing.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't put Adam Copeland in there with him. Don't
Oh
put
yeah,
Edge in
no,
there.
yeah,
Please don't fucking do that to him.
yeah,
Like, avoid that at all costs.
yeah.
Never have those paths cross. Please and thank you. Never, ever, ever. That would just completely no.
Yeah.
So now we get to tonight, which obviously we're going to review in part B of this episode. But we have the night after Mania always tends to be crazy shit.
Uh-huh.
Whether it be returns, whether it be call-ups from NXT.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we get? What's interesting is that I don't see. I'm trying to find if there's any preview at all for tonight, and I don't. WWE.com doesn't even have a preview on their website.
Damn.
So they and their show goes on the air in 4 hours based on what time it is right now. It's almost 4:00 in the afternoon Eastern time when we're about to wrap up the show, and they literally have zero preview on WWE.com for everything is still from last week's Raw.
They don't need one. They know people are going to tune in.
Oh, hype! Oh! I agree, but it's like, so let's just factor this out. What are we? What kind of fallouts? What can we expect fallout from tonight? Obviously Brock Roman.
Yeah.
RK
Cody
Bro.
Steph.
Something.
Yep. RK Bro. Yeah.
Yep. KO.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he's on break. If he is going on, but you would think he'd at least stick around for the Raw after Mania, then maybe go on break.
Yeah.
Bianca.
Right. Edge and Priest.
Edge and Priest. You're gonna assume they're probably gonna do some stupid fucking segment involving Tamina, Akira Tozawa, Reggie, and Dana Brooke.
Right, because they didn't do anything with the 24/7 title all Mania weekend.
Oh, they gotta do wedding planning too. By the way, I love how they used Dana Brooke's actual engagement ring for that segment last week. That was duh. What else? I feel like there's something. If they do anything with Lashley, because he just came back, did he come back for like a one-off that he's going to go back and heal up more?
Right.
Good. Where was MVP, by the way?
Yeah.
That question has to be answered. Because I know it's been written about since last night. And then obviously who returns or debuts tonight?
Right.
Is Ciampa going to be Raw? Because
Ciampa's going to be Raw, yeah.
Pretty much all of his matches have been on Raw before, so I'd assume Raw. Yeah. Who else, if anyone comes up with him? So it's going to be an interesting night to see what happens.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll break all that down in part B of this episode, along with all the other non-WWE stuff that we had not mentioned from WrestleMania week. So that'll be intriguing. Any other parting thoughts from WrestleMania, Stand and Deliver, anything like that you wanted to bring up quick?
I mean, I just want to like put it out there that like, because people say that I always hate everything, but I give praise and praise is due, and I had a good time both nights watching Mania.
Yeah, I agree. This was WWE showed why WrestleMania is in its own stratosphere from everyone else.
Yeah.
It was entertaining pretty much start to finish both nights. Yeah, so I would be in complete agreement with you. By the way, you said 8.5. I give I think that's a fair grade. I'd say 8.5, right in that ballpark. So I am in agreement with you on that. There's no such thing as a perfect show or a perfect weekend of shows.
Right.
But all in all, WrestleMania delivered, and they should be. Everyone should be proud of what they did in that ring the last 2 nights.
Yeah.
That being said, you good?
Yeah, I'm good for now.
All right. So we're gonna cut things off right now. So this is part A of episode 44. Check back for part B, coming up in a little bit. In the meantime, that's JJ. I'm Brian. This is White Heat, presented by Godzilla Media, sponsored by our friends at Mohawk Hunt and Johnstone Supply. See you later, JJ.
See you later, JJ.